Hey guys, welcome back to Ace Attorney. After Lana's bombshell in the last episode, we jumped into court trying to bag Gant, which led us ever closer towards the rabbit hole of the SL9 incident, ultimately finding out that it's a possibility that Emma was responsible for Prosecutor Marshall's death and not Joe Darke. Finally leaving off with the whole court in an uproar, forcing a recess. So today, we're going to be jumping back in to see how deep this rabbit hole goes. Enjoy. February 25th, 12:06. District Court, Defendant Lobby Number 2. Sorry, Edgeworth. I didn't mean to get you in trouble. Don't worry about it. This is my problem, not yours. Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You've got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run around all day while on duty. Top it off, you call me here. I've seen happy people at funerals. I take it Lana's having you run errands again. Let me tell you. This is the last time, pal. Here. She asked me to give this to you. If there was a break in today's trial. Evidence law. Edgeworth was talking about it just the other day. You must know the 2 rules of evidence law. Rule 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Is that right, Mr. Wright? It seems so. You could really at least study some evidence law, really. Chief Prosecutor also wanted me to give you a message. A message? She said, if you're planning to take on him, you're gonna need this book. Him. Guess I'll need to give this book a thorough read through. Evidence law securely slipped in a pocket. Doesn't look like that book will do you any good now, though. All that's left now is a chief prosecutor's sentence. That's where you're wrong, detective. Huh? Haven't you figured it out yet? Why I'm still sitting in that prosecutor's seat? Despite all these allegations being thrown at me? Mr. Edgeworth. The real trial today hasn't begun yet. What? What else is there left to do? Your credibility is being all but ruined by this forged evidence you were unaware of. Miss Guy found out she unwittingly caused a man's death. And now, you're telling me you want more to do? You gotta be kidding me, pal. You're missing the point, detective. Lana didn't murder Detective Goodman. She merely stuck a knife into his dead body. That means the real killer is still out there. What? And we're going to expose him. No matter what it takes. This case has hurt too many people. It's time to bring it to an end. February 25th, 12:52, District Court, Courtroom Number 9. Right, Edgeworth, it's time to fucking go. Court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Mr. Edgeworth? Yes, Your Honour. The Inquiry Committee is planning to impose harsh penalties for your actions. Thank you for the news, Your Honour. Yes, well... normally this is where the prosecution calls forth a witness. But, this isn't easy to say. You see, there is some concern that you, Mr. Edgeworth, may have struck a bargain. You think I may have manipulated the witnesses. I didn't say that. It's just, you see, everyone has been talking and... Very well, Your Honor. I have a solution. A solution? That being the case, the prosecution will allow the defense to call forth all further witnesses. What? But there's no precedent for what you're proposing? Undeniably, this is an unusual arrangement, but a very effective one. It would prove that I haven't struck any deals with the witnesses. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you say? Of course I'm going to take it. Unbelievable. Edgeworth has found a way to continue the trial. Very well. The defense accepts the prosecution's proposal. Then it's settled. The defense may now call forth the next witness. Mr. Wright, you do realize this is your last chance. If you call the wrong witness, this trial is as good as over. The defense calls. The time's finally come to bring out the real murderer. Damon Gant. Damon Gant. The defense calls Damon Gant to the stand. Damon Gant? What does he have to do with anything? As the defendant's partner 2 years ago, Mr. Gant has first-hand knowledge of the crime. I feel we should hear what he has to say about it. As luck would have it, he should still be in the courthouse. He would also be the least likely to have been manipulated by me in any way. Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor? True. All right, bailiff. Please escort Mr. Gant to the stand. Ganty boy. Witness, please state your name and occupation. What is this, some kind of practical joke? I was just on my way to lunch. Your name and occupation, sir. Worthy. Are you sure you want to do this? Your name and occupation. So, you want to play hardball, eh? Please, Mr. Gant. Fine. My name is Damon Gant. I am the acting chief of police. Acting? Now then, Chief Gant, the court requests to hear your testimony. Oh, righto. What's with the grim face? First, let's clear up this SL9 incident. Oh, you mean that time when Lana's sister murdered that prosecutor? Personally, I think it's been made pretty clear already. There are still some things unaccounted for. Oh? Like what? Like the role you played in all this. Son, either you're very brave or very foolish. You are aware, of course, that a police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Weapons? Sure. Take my testimony, for example. I don't have to give it if I don't want to. What? Is that true? I'm afraid so. The chief of police has the right to refuse to testify. Of course, such an action carries with it certain risks. Don't worry, I'm not here to hinder your trial. Just remember, if this turns out to be a bigger waste of time, don't say I didn't warn you. Very well. The witness may begin his testimony. SL9 incident. As I recall, Neil and I were questioning him that day. To make a long story short, we slipped up. That power outage didn't help either. When I went to my office, I found Lana there. Apparently, she had already arranged the crime scene. As you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. Is that when Darke was arrested? Him? He was lying on the floor unconscious. When Emma sent Neil flying, it seems Darke bumped his head. I see. Everything seems pretty clear-cut. The police chief has the right to refuse to testify. Then I'd better hit him hard and fast. Right, so don't need to press any of this because it's all going to be recording the question that day, not important. To make a long story short, slipped up, apparently, not important. Found Lana there, not important. Apparently she'd already arranged the crime scene. As you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. That right there is bullshit. Because, as you've probably worked out, where is it? The unstable jar, that was in the safe. Part of it was in the safe that only he has access to. And the evidence list, where is it? There. The evidence list was found in Gant's desk as well. So we might go for the evidence list. I think both of them work, I think. You claim you had nothing to do with the forgery. But I'm afraid that's a claim you cannot back up. Explain yourself. Several pieces of evidence were found in your office. Take this list, for example. That's the list Emma Sky drew her picture on. This was discovered in your desk. Not only that, but a piece of this jar that was sitting in your office that knew both would work was found inside your safe. It was found where? You see, Chief Gant, these articles of evidence uncovered in your office are both concrete proof that you also played a part in the illegal investigation. Chief Gant, what's the meaning of this? Oh, here's a defense attorney who may even rival Worthy. So you admit to it then? That you were involved in the forgery? Who, me? Or do you mean you? Me? Why would I have anything to do with that? Well, you were the one who snuck into my office when you found this evidence. Prosecutors aren't the only ones capable of forging evidence, you know. Defense attorneys can do so too. Isn't that right, Righto? However, Detective Gumshoe was present during the investigation. Worthy, my boy. Not even detectives are exempt from the law. Rest assured, Dick will receive his due punishment. What? If Detective Gumshoe's salary drops any further, he'll end up paying to work. Yes, well, in light of the detective's presence, please give us your testimony regarding these pieces of evidence found in your office and their relation to the forgery that took place at the crime scene. My. Kids these days no longer know how to put two and two together. Evidence and forgery. Let's see, what was it now? A jar fragment and a list? For all I know, you could have planted them in my office. Anyway, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered. If they were found after Darke was convicted, then they're worthless. There's no reason I'd participate in a forgery. Rearranging crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor? When investigating the crime scene, you should have been more careful to observe protocol. You do understand I'm the Chief of Police, right? There will be consequences. Ooh. Indeed. I believe I will press charges, so you won't make the same mistake again. My apologies, Chief, but would you mind waiting until tomorrow for that? Today is, well, you know. Alright, Udgy. In return, though. I know. That place, right? Huh? What are these guys? Telepathic? I don't even know what the hell happened there. Evidence and forgery. For all I know, you could have planted them in my office. No point wasting his time with that. You've got to try and be succinct here, because at any point, if I press the wrong thing, he can just end the case because he refuses to testify. Anyway, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered. Very true. They found after Darke was convicted, then worthless. True. There's no reason I'd participate in a forgery. No way to prove that. Rearranging crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. That one. We will press on that one. Really, Chief Gant? At the very least, there's one very large benefit you've reaped from all this. Oh? I wasn't aware. What is this benefit? That would, of course, be the position you have. Chief of Police. Oh. The resolution of the SL9 incident secured your promotion to Chief. That in itself is sufficient motive. Oh, that's a good one. Huh? Do you really think I'm that incompetent? What do you mean? Even without that case, I was already in line to become the next chief. The resolution of SL9 merely sped up the inevitable a little. Is that true, Edgeworth? Yes. He was going to be made chief anyway. Be careful when pointing that finger, or you might wind up being the one pointed at. So that means there's only one possible motivation for you to commit forgery. If you didn't do it for yourself, then you did it for someone else. Don't be silly, Worthy. You know me better than that. There are only 3 people I look out for. Me, myself, and I. There. It's out in the open now. Udgy, would you mind if I change my testimony a little? By all means, please do. I wouldn't be anyone's accomplice if there was nothing in it for me. She damn right we're pressing that one. Nothing in it for you? Sorry, but the only person I care about is yours truly. That girl, Lana's little sister, was it? If you think I felt sorry for her, you'd better think again. You're right. Don't feel sorry for anyone. Be tough on crime and tough on people. That's how I was raised. You seem to be lax enough on yourself, though. Oh, that's a good one, Worthy. Could there have been something in it for him? Given his selfishness, would he have helped someone out? Yeah. Find out accomplice. Lana. Because if he gets Lana into where she needs to be, then he can control the prosecutor's office as well. True, you might not help out anyone for their sake, but if it would benefit you, you might decide to assist someone. Mr. Wright, it appears you're positively determined to portray the chief as a nice man who likes to lend people a hand. That's not what I meant. Very well then. Who is this person you believe Chief Gant may have helped forge evidence? Lana Sky. Chief Prosecutor Lana Sky. The defendant? I believe it's quite obvious in light of the circumstances. Emma Sky fell victim to an unfortunate series of events. Who would want to help her more than her own sister, Lana? And as for Chief Gant, he would also have a reason to help Lana if she asked him to. That reason, of course, is self-profit. Self-profit? What do you mean? After the SL9 incident was resolved, Lana Sky was appointed Chief Prosecutor at the prosecutor's office. The person who arranged this job change was you, Chief Gant. But how would he profit from all of this? He would be able to use the Chief Prosecutor as his puppet. Essentially, he would acquire unchecked authority over all investigations. Do you mean to tell me that despite the Chief's formidable appearance, he plays with puppets? No. Oh, wait. You must mean puppet as in someone forced to do his bidding. Admit it, Chief. You assisted Lana Sky in forging evidence. Your motive? To appoint her as Chief Prosecutor so you could control her. Righto, my boy. You have quite an imagination. Let me ask you something. What? Do you have any proof of this, that I controlled Lana? For example, is Lana testifying that I've done such a thing? Lana. She's keeping quiet to protect Emma. There's no way she'd testify against Gant. I'm afraid without any proof, all this amounts to nothing more than mere conjecture. Unless that is also what happened in this incident. This incident? Which one would that be? Of course I'm talking about the murder of Detective Bruce Goodman. Chief Prosecutor has been acting strange throughout this entire trial. Almost as if someone's been controlling her. Worthy, you'd better watch your tongue. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. Just what do you mean? What he means, Your Honor, is that Chief Gant is involved in the murder of Detective Goodman. Not only that, but the Chief is now making Lana take the rap to cover up his involvement. What? Order, order, order. I said order. Mr. Wright, you can't be serious. Huh? This is an affront to the highest ranking officer in the law enforcement agency. To accuse the chief of police of blackmail and murder? That's it. Impossible. Your Honor, I was merely reiterating what Mr. Edgeworth said in easy to understand language. Smooth, right? It's too late, Mr. Wright. There's no turning back for us now. We're teaming up. Looks like he's the one who's decided to go through with this. We're on the same side. We're teaming up against him. Can you prove this, Mr. Wright? That the chief, a high-ranking officer of the law, is involved in this murder? Good question. Regardless of his rank or title, Chief Gant is just a man. The question is he a criminal? I believe the evidence will tell. I see. Alright then, let us see what Mr. Wright's got, and it better be good. Show us the evidence that ties Chief Gant to the murder of Detective Goodman. ID record. ID record? I think it's that one. Boosh! This is the ID card list. Yes, the one that shows who entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. There was one ID on the list we couldn't determine the owner of yesterday. 777-7777. Sorry, but there's no way you can prove that's my ID card number. It's your number. What? How do you know that? The safe in Chief Gant's office requires a code to open. A 7-digit code. 7 digits? You don't mean... I'm afraid so, Your Honor. The code was 777-7777. The same as the remaining ID number on that list. Chief Gant, you entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. Order! Order! Chief Gant, what do you have to say? Nothing. The defense's search of my office was in violation of regulations. And I will demand Mr. Wright be punished to the maximum extent of the law. But right now, this court demands an explanation from you. About the use of this ID card. Chief Gant, so you admit it? You entered the evidence room on the day of the crime? What about it? I'm chief of police, whether it's the evidence room or the bathroom. What's the difference? I can go anywhere I want. Tell me, when you entered the room, were you alone? I always go to the bathroom alone, as I do with the evidence room. Detective Goodman wouldn't happen to be with you that day, would he? Of course not. Why would he be? I hadn't seen him in days. You hadn't seen him in days? Chief Gant, I'm afraid you've just undone yourself. On that day, you had to have met with Detective Goodman. What do you mean? This trial's purpose is to determine Lana Sky's guilt. No, it isn't, Your Honor. This trial's purpose is to determine the truth. If Chief Gant met the victim on the day of the crime, then we need to determine one thing. What transpired during that meeting? In that case, Mr. Wright, I'm going to have to ask you for evidence. Show us proof that the victim went to meet Chief Gant on the day of the crime. That will be his lost item report. Can only be submitted to the Chief of Police. Detective Goodman lost his ID card on the day of the crime. Or to be more accurate, Jake Marshall stole it. So, Detective Goodman filled out a lost item report. He would have had to give that report to the Chief of Police. Yet you're in possession of the report, which means you can't be sure he filed it. He filed it How do you know, I ask? Because he needed to enter the evidence room that day. He needed to? Yes, to transfer the evidence out. Oh. Detective Goodman took the form to you, Chief Gant. Then, you accompanied the detective to the evidence room. I accompanied him. There's no other way that the murderer and Detective Goodman could have entered the room. Hold on. Let me guess what you're going to say next. I, the Chief of Police, murdered poor Goodman. Yes, actually. Exactly. But wait. The Chief didn't necessarily need to accompany him to the evidence room. He could have just lent him his ID card. Yes. Now that you mention it, I believe I might have done something of the sort. No. Sorry, that's not possible. According to the record, your card was used only once. Yet you showed us your ID card earlier. If you had really lent it to Detective Goodman, it would have been found on his body. No! Your web of lies is crumbling. Your web of lies is crumbling, I was going to say Detective Gant, Chief Gant. Chief Gant, you didn't. The murder was most likely a spur-of-the-moment crime for no one in their right mind. Should think out, that one kind of correct complete. For no one in their right mind would choose the police department as the place to commit murder. After the murder, you contacted Lana at the prosecutor's office. Why? To dispose of Detective Goodman's body, of course. You're forgetting, Mr. Wright, that the victim's body was discovered in the prosecutor's office parking lot. How did you manage to move it there? I was at the police department the entire day, you know. And everyone's aware that Lana stayed at the prosecutor's office after the ceremony. Everyone except me, it seems. Still, you're the chief of police. You have the entire police force at your disposal. Oh, so you think I just ordered an officer to do it? Hey you, take this here dead body over to the prosecutor's office. I don't think so. Chief Gant, you left all the evidence we need to prove how you moved the body to the prosecutor's office. And all this time I thought it was a useless clue just taking up space. Screwdriver. How could the chief have moved the body? Mr. Wright, show us this evidence. To move the victim's body, Chief Gant used this. The screwdriver. Because it was in Edgeworth's car. The body was found. This is how we moved Detective Goodman's body. What's that? A screwdriver? But what does that have to do with this case? Mr. Edgeworth, think back to the day of the crime. What is this screwdriver doing here? It's here because... I was asked to go by Chief Gant, no less. He told me he wanted me to keep it here in the prosecutor's office. In any case, on the day of the stabbings, I brought this back here. After the ceremony ended that day, I didn't plan to return to the prosecutor's office. But you did, because Chief Gant asked you to. You mean The body was found in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. I think it's obvious what happened. The body was moved by that car. Detective Goodman's body was carried in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car? Yes. Unless, of course, you have another explanation, Chief. Why else would you have asked Mr. Edgeworth to transport evidence from a closed case? There's only one plausible explanation. To transport the body to your accomplice, Miss Lana Skye. Order, order, order. What's going on here? Is there no room for rebuttal to the defense's outrageous accusations? I think back to the photograph Miss Starr took at the prosecutor's office. This was not a photo of the body being stuffed in the trunk to be taken away. It was exactly the opposite. It is a photo of the body being taken from the trunk. Chief Gant, please say something. I believe your time's up. My time's up? Sorry, Righto, but I'm having lunch with the District Attorney General after this. We have to get going if we're going to make it in time for the early bird special. But the cross-examination isn't finished yet. Remember what I told you earlier? A police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Weapons? Like the right to refuse to testify. I'm invoking that right now. What? That is not a right to be casually invoked? There are certain risks to be considered. So you're just gonna run away after all this? Run away? Don't make me laugh-worthy. I stabbed old Goodman. That's what you're saying, right? But if you have any conclusive evidence, you would have presented it by now. Well, You think I had Lana dispose of the body? If so, then show your proof and get it over with. I'll say it again, Mr. Wright. Damon Gant is the current Chief of Police. This court will not tolerate any accusations against him without concrete proof. Well, Mr. Wright? Your Honor, do you have any concrete proof? Proof that the Chief Gant murdered Detective Goodman and made Miss Skye dispose of his body? Do I have any concrete proof? I've got no proof yet. It's only showing evidence I'm not even sure of myself. No, Your Honor. At present I have no conclusive evidence. C or G? In that case, this court is forced to penalise you for your allegations against the Chief. What? Here's a tip. Never gamble what you can't afford to lose, Rido. Seems that lady luck was on my side yet again today. Okay, Archie. I'll leave the rest to you. I warned you earlier, Mr. Wright. This is an affront to a senior officer in our nation's law enforcement agency. Whoa. Thank you, Edgeworth. Lady Luckham, maybe we should have a word with her. Mr. Edgeworth, what do you mean? There's one lady who knows the real truth behind this trial. We haven't yet had the honour of hearing her testimony. A lady who knows the truth, another witness. In the absence of conclusive evidence, the only other method of proof is testimony. But Chief Gant invoked his right to refuse to testify. There's still someone else, one more witness who can answer all the questions raised in this trial, someone right in this very room. Mr. Edgeworth, who is this person? Why are you asking me, Your Honor? Have you forgotten? The defense is the one calling the witnesses today. Mr. Wright, does such a witness exist? She may not be willing to tell the truth. We can't just stop now. Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls forth the Queen herself, Lana Skye. The defendant, Miss Lana Skye. She was in the underground parking lot at 5:15 PM on February 21st. Her task, to dispose of the victim's body, in accordance with a certain someone's orders. Mr. Edgeworth? The prosecution has no objections, Your Honor. Very well, the court will now take its final recess for the day. In 15 minutes, we will reconvene to hear the defendant's testimony. This court is now in Hold on. Huh? Chief Gant, I thought you were going to eat. Listen good, Lana. He's talking to Lana. I don't think you need me to tell you this, but if you accept Mr. Wright's claims, there will be terrible consequences. You threatening my witness? That's right. Your sister will be found guilty for Neil Marshall's murder. This isn't good. Of course, you'd never support such outrageous claims anyway, right? Just something to think about. Alright then. I've got a lunch date to meet. Yeah, Judge, that really happened. Okay. If there aren't any other further objections, this court is now in recess. February 25th, 2:04 PM, District Court, Defendant Lobby, Number 2. Looks like we managed to stay in the game. Yeah, thanks to your help, Edgeworth. That chief. He's something else, pals. Detective Gumshoe. I'm not a detective anymore. Oh yeah, sorry about that. Don't worry. I've already decided where to work now. At your office. My office? What the hell are you going to do? Sure. I'll take the place of that top-knot girl you used to work with. Could you mean Maya? Stell. Looks like we're all out of moves now. Chief Gant's done it again. How is it that he always gets the upper hand? It's not fair he has the right to refuse to testify. Settle down, right? Remember what the judge said? But Chief, that is not a right to be casually invoked. There are certain risks to be considered. Risks? What do you mean by that? It's simple. If the Chief refuses to testify, the opposite also holds true. You mean he forfeits his right to say anything too? Emma, are you okay? Yeah, when I came to I was in the medical office. I've been listening to the trial from the gallery. So she heard everything that's been going on. Emma, I'm sorry for what I said before. No, don't be. It was the truth. You know, it's funny. I almost feel somehow relieved. Relieved? Yeah, now finally know what really happened. To think that all this time, my sister was being blackmailed by that terrible man. And she did it all, just to protect me. Ever since her appointment as chief prosecutor, everyone who knew her said she changed. Perhaps it was easier that way for her. What do you mean? What do you think I mean? To follow Chief Gant's orders. She must have shut herself up deep inside, to force herself to do anything and everything the Chief told her to. That must be why she became so cold. It was all my fault. It's all because I murdered Mr. Marshall. Hey, don't go blaming yourself now. If you want to blame anyone, blame society, pal. Chief Gant may be able to fool everyone else with his forgery, but he can't fool my memory. I remember now. I knocked Mr. Marshall into that armor. I see. Well, we better get back to this. It's time for the final act. Emma, why don't you wait here? No, I'm going with you. I want to be there when Lana tells the truth. Let's go, right? It's time to end this. To be continued. Well, shit. On that note, we're going to leave that here for today. And I believe the next episode will be the last one. I think we're very, very close to nailing Chief Gant, because I believe Chief Gant is the one who killed... He definitely killed Detective Goodman. And I believe he killed Marshall as well. But I'm less sure of that one. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed the series so far. It's been a long series. A damn long series. Longer than I was expecting it to be, but it's all good. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have liked it, please hit that like button, share, comment, subscribe and all that jazz. And as always, I shall see you all on the flip side. Bye bye.